Hi! So, welcome back to my channel. So today's video, I'm a bit late to the party on this one, but Smile by Raina Telgemeier. So yeah, a little bit late to the party on this one. This originally came out back in 2010, was released in 2010. Actually, technically first came out a little bit before that. She'd released it through an online magazine website a little bit before that. But 2010 is when it was published in as a collection. Um, and yeah, it was pretty popular. Just a little. Uh, it spent the next several years on the New York Times graphic novel bestseller list. Like literally years on there. It just did not drop off, and usually right near the top. Honestly, like usually it's mostly like right near the top of the paperback graphic novel bestseller list, along with Telgemeier's other books. Before the New York Times just got rid of the graphic novel bestseller list, it was basically Telgemeier and Dav Pilkey essentially made up that list. So yeah, just a little popular, and very critically acclaimed as well. Did win Eisner Award, which is which is the specifically the Eisner for best publication for teens. The Eisner is the one of the most prestigious awards in comic books. If something, if a comic is nominated for an Eisner, that means that it's almost certainly worth reading. This past year's controversy notwithstanding. But yeah, being nominated for an Eisner is an accomplishment. Winning an Eisner is definitely a big deal for anyone who works in comics. It won a few other awards as well, but there's a reason this is the one that's on the cover. Um, so yeah, so the book itself, it is autobiographical. It's about Telgemeier's own childhood. When she was in 6th grade, she tripped, fell, and broke her front teeth. One just came right out. The other was knocked into her gums. I'll admit that's a little bit. When I was in 8th grade, 6th, 7th, or 8th. What grade would it have been? Somewhere between 6th and 8th grade. I think it might have been 8th grade, might have been 7th grade, might even have been 6th grade. But when I was somewhere in that age range, I slipped on ice and broke my front teeth. My teeth just broke. There was no putting them back. They had to be just rebuilt, basically. In her case, they were able to put the one tooth back in and pull the other one out to get it back in. It didn't stop there. She spent the next several years dealing with issues with her teeth. She needed braces right from the start. Actually, she needed braces to deal with an overbite. and then all of it happened, and then her teeth, the thing with her teeth happened. Um, and then over the next few years, she needed a bunch more procedures done. She needed a lot of stuff done to her to fix her teeth. Uh, eventually, um, eventually it did get. She did end up with a perfectly lovely smile, as you can see here. Perfectly lovely teeth, perfectly normal teeth. Uh, One thing that's interesting is by the time she got her braces out in high school, uh, she thought her teeth looked weird. Like, I think she spent so much time with her teeth in various, with braces, with headgear, with like gaps, with just everything. She spent so long getting them fixed that by the time they were fixed, they looked really weird to her, which was kind of funny. Um, so yeah, obviously, like all that, she had a lot of, at the time, she dealt with a lot of stress related to it all, um, for obvious reasons. A lot of emotional turmoil, and this was right when she was starting puberty, so right when she was noticing boys. Uh, so having all that, dealing with all that while noticing boys, not easy. Um, and there was other stuff going on. She had there were a couple of kids in her school, in her class, who were a few kids in her class who were just constantly mean to her, like supposedly friends, but they were just jerks to her a lot. So she had to deal with that, with them screwing over her, screwing up her confidence. Um, Also details her first experience with the Little Mermaid. Uh, girl in her class asked her if she's gonna go see. Told her to go watch Little Mermaid, and at first she's like, "Oh, I'm too old for this Disney stuff." And then this absolutely adorable panel. Hard to get the full effect, but yeah, her eyes just huge. As she fell completely in love with the movie and decided that she wanted to be an animator when she grew up. Which, instead, she ended up doing comic books. Which, a little bit different. Vaguely similar, but yeah. Yeah, definitely also a little bit different. And truthfully, not a huge loss, I don't think. Going into it's not a huge difference going into comics versus animation. You're not getting any money either way, sadly. Though she actually did. She actually probably has made. I imagine. I would hope that she's made a fair bit of money from her comics career, considering that she has sold there are estimates that she has sold. I think it was estimates that she sold like 20 million. That she sold like 20 million copies of her works, of her books. 18 million. So as of 2019, uh, her books collectively have more than 18 million copies in print, which is a lot. And you know, she hasn't released anything else since then. Like the last book she released was Guts in 2019. But I imagine that's probably probably got another million or two by now. Um, and Yeah, so I would hope that she's reasonably well off by this point. I mean, she's not going to be rich. It's comics. She ain't rich, sad to say. But I hope that she's reasonably well off by now. Um, and where was I saying? So yeah, instead of animation, she went into comics. But yeah, Little Mermaid was sort of the start of that. Uh, One thing that was kind of funny, she developed a crush on a boy just because he said that he thought the Little Mermaid was good. Just like, yeah, next day in school, she and her friend are talking about it, and he mentions that it's, he mentions that it's really good. Yeah. And then, she's like, oh, and crush. So that was, I found that amusing that she liked it, that she decided she liked him just because, he liked the Little Mermaid. Um, as you can see, the art is really good. Like, it is really cute art. Um, yeah, it's really, really expressive. Um, a little bit grotesque at a couple of points. A little bit on the grotesque side. Uh, at one point, she needed a retainer with fake front teeth. Which, that is a deranged expression. And also allowed for something, allowed her to do something hilarious to her friends. They're all complimenting her, telling her how good her teeth look, and then pop! The joys of being a teenager. I forget if she's a teenager by this point or not. I think she might have been 13 by then. Maybe? Maybe not. Oh no, this was still 7th grade. She was, this was when she was still in 7th grade. But anyway. Um, so there's all that, dealing with all of that and stress about boys. And also, uh, during all this fun stuff, she lived in California, which got hit with a really severe earthquake back in those days. Um, I think I kind of remember that. I think I kind of remember hearing about that on the news at the time. Um, it was a huge one. It was like an 8, I think. That was also, I think, when she was in 7th grade. There was an earthquake that was over an 8 on the Richter scale. It was like one of the biggest earthquakes that California had ever had. Um, so that got touched on um, fairly early on. Because yeah, that was San Francisco. She lived in back then, and like I said, yeah, it got hit with an earthquake that was an 8 point something on the uh, possibly an 8.2 on the Richter scale. Um, yeah, it's just like it's dealing with all like it's just her being tween and teens from like sixth grade up until she graduates high school. It sort of ends with her high school graduation. Um, but yeah, it deals a lot of her high school is a fair bit of her high school experience just gets sort of skipped over to finish the story of her teeth. Um, so it doesn't spend a lot of time on her high school years. Uh, this much, a few dozen pages. It's like 30 odd pages spent on her high school years. So it is mostly grades 6 through 8 that are covered here because that was, I guess, sort of the most eventful. That was when the most stuff was happening to her. Um, One of the key reasons that she um, did this book, I think, is she mentions at one point, she complains to her mom at one point about having headgear and, how to make her look weird and look like a freak sort of deal. Um, and her mom says that, a lot of kids wear stuff to help their bodies, and just she doesn't realize it because nobody talks about it. So yeah, she just sort of declares, maybe maybe that people should talk about it, so that they'll feel less like freaks. And I think that's sort of a crucial part of this book. Braces are an experience that a lot of people go through, and it's something that a lot of people get bullied for, and other sort of things like that. Not just braces, but anything to help with any sort of disability or any sort of medical thing. People do have to wear things to help with their bodies, and a lot of people get bullied for it because it's not something that is talked about often. So I think she just sort of wanted to tell people out there that they are not alone, that, this is an experience that people go through, and get a conversation going about it. And she certainly succeeded in that, considering how many people read this book. Um, she's written a few other things as well. She had two other autobiographical ones, Sisters, about growing up with a little sister, and Guts, about stomach issues that she had. along with continuing to grow up. So both of that one as well about being young and having stomach issues and dealing with those while growing up. Her other She also wrote drama, which was fictional, but did draw on experiences that she went through, and Ghosts, which is entirely fictional. Um, Drama actually has been challenged quite often. Uh, that one has faced a lot of it's one of the most challenged books in libraries for a good few years. Mostly because it has queer characters. She's written a bunch of other stuff. Uh, she did a bunch of babysitter book, or she did a few babysitter club graphic novel editions, or adaptations. Um, Even before this, she actually did end up doing a an X-Men comic, funnily enough, uh, which she wrote with the guy she was married to at the time, which you know, pretty cool. Uh, that she did write an X-Men comic, X-Men Misfits in particular, which I don't actually remember if I ever read. I think I might have, but I have no memory of it. And she's written a few other things. She's written some. She's contributed in anthologies, a couple other things. Um, and yeah, she still works. And this book continues to be, definitely a big one. Uh, Started getting used in classrooms. Started like for teaching. Like students would start, like teachers would use it for education, which is and it's a good one for that because it's got a really easy to approach art style that is something that kids will enjoy and anything that gets kids reading is good. So it's a good way of getting kids into reading. And yeah, it's just like it is a really good graphic novel. It absolutely deserved all the praise it got. Um, and does make me want to check out Telgemeier's other stuff. So yeah, talked longer than I actually intended to. Yeah, so yeah, that's enough said about Smile by Raina Telgemeier. Next book I read is actually going to be an even older one. Next book I read is going to be Wizards of Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin. One of the all-time classic fantasy novels. Finally gonna get around to reading that one at some point. So yeah. So thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.